With more than 6,000 small and microcap companies listed, if you're looking for the next apple at the earliest stage, then Channel Check truly is the orchard. The listed companies support Channel Check, so it's free for you, the potential investor, to gain access to institutional quality research from FINRA licensed analysts, advanced market data, industry reports, news, and a growing catalog of videos and webcasts. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and register for Channel Check so you're always up to date on what's going on at the small and microcap data place. Welcome to the C-Suite series presented by Channel Check and Noble Capital Markets. Noble is an SEC-registered, FINRA-licensed broker-dealer and the source of the equity research available on Channel Check. Today's interview features Newrange Gold Corp, OTC ticker symbol NRGOF, TSXV ticker symbol NRG. Following a brief corporate overview, Noble Senior Research Analyst Mark Reichman interviews Newrange Gold President and CEO Robert Archer. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description for Noble's research on Newrange Gold, as well as news and advanced market data. And now, here's Robert and Mark.
Hi, I'm Bob Archer, President and CEO of Newrange Gold, and welcome to the corporate presentation for November 2021. Of course, we'll be making some forward-looking statements and encourage everyone to do their homework before making an investment. So just as a brief overview for those not familiar with Newrange, we are a junior explorer and we are focused on district scale gold exploration in what we call prolific regions that have already produced a lot of, or are producing a lot of gold. And safe jurisdictions, so try to minimize political risk and that sort of thing. So specifically, we're focused in Nevada and Red Lake, Ontario. And in Nevada, we have a past-producing high-grade gold district called Pamlico that has been, or was in production in the late 1800s through to the early 1900s and has seen relatively little modern exploration, and it has recently been expanded to cover some targets for porphyry copper as well. And in Ontario, we have two projects there. One has an 8-kilometer long gold target that has never been drilled in the Red Lake area of northwestern Ontario. And right next door to that, we've just acquired a past producing gold mine called Argosy. And that one was only mined to a depth of about 900 feet or 270 meters. And we feel that it has significant potential to extend the mineralization below that. So just turning to Nevada, I think most viewers probably have some basic understanding of the state and the gold production. It is the fifth largest gold producing region in the world and currently ranked as the most desirable mining jurisdiction in the world by the Fraser Institute. It typically produces about 5.5 million ounces of gold annually. And we're located in the west central part of the state along what's called the Walker Lane Trend, which is a northwest southeast trending belt that in itself contains a multitude of past and present producers that are probably very well known to a lot of people. So it's a great address, great place to be looking for new discoveries. As I mentioned, Pamlico does date back to the 1800s, late 1800s, and at that time it was known as one of the highest grade gold districts in Nevada. But it's been in private hands since about 1896 and owned by only 3 families. And so it's seen relatively little modern exploration, and that's what presents such a great opportunity for Newrange to expand on that. It has excellent infrastructure. We're only 12 miles outside of the town of Hawthorne, and just really off the main highway with a power line crossing the property as well. We have done some preliminary metallurgy with recoveries up to 97%. The mineralization is right at surface, and so it will be amenable to both low-cost open pit mining methods as well as low-cost processing. We've since acquiring the initial property, we've more than doubled the size, such that it's now more than 5,700 hectares or 57 square kilometers. So we do have potential there for a very large district scale discovery. And we have an option to earn 100% of the core property, but we do own 100% of the surrounding property as we stake those claims ourselves. So with the new discovery, or the new geological model that we're working with, we've moved beyond just the initial gold district that was mined in the past, and realized that this may well be part and parcel of a much larger district that encompasses potentially porphyry copper or copper gold deposits as well. So we've taken a little bit of a step back to properly assess that, because the new property that we did acquire through the new claim staking is relatively unexplored ground. It's never been drilled, and in most cases never mapped or sampled, and so our geologists are doing that currently, trying to get a better understanding of the overall geological setting. But we do now feel that the gold zone that we had been testing previously with this high-grade near-surface oxide gold mineralization that we talk about here is associated with a much larger district that encompasses copper as well. So, as I say, we've got multiple targets now spread over a very large area. The old mining district itself has more than 300 historic mine workings. There's high-grade gold mineralization in those, as well as some lower-grade mineralization that the old-timers were really not interested in, nor did they know about it at the time. But that does present an opportunity for the type of open-pit, low-grade type mineralization that companies can profitably mine these days. We have a new zone that we discovered called the 91 zone, just about 1.5 kilometers or about a mile north of the historic mine workings. And this is, again, an area that we should be able to expand on with additional drilling, and has lots of potential to grow. We've been looking at an area called Miguel Canyon, which is what we call a skarn zone, which is a specific type of intrusive related alteration and mineralization, where we're seeing gold, copper, lead, and zinc on surface. So there's lots of potential there to expand on that as well. We're really just getting started on that. The La Panta mine is at the north end of the property. That's also a past producing mine, what we call a carbonate replacement deposit. And that was gold, silver, copper, lead, and zinc. And that's also evidence of what we call intrusive activity that ties all of these types of mineralization together. And last but not least, the copper mineralization, which we're really just starting to understand now. There is a particular zone just south of La Panta that contains a little over 1% copper up to 5.5% along a 250 meter stretch that we've sampled before it kind of disappears under the cover rock. So there is a large IP anomaly, which you can see on here. That copper zone I was just talking about is this string of green dots through the middle of the IP anomaly, geophysical anomaly, which is in itself about 3 kilometers long. So the two are just a few hundred meters apart, and we feel that they are related. So that has to be drill tested, and that will likely be a primary target for our next drill program. Just farther to the south of there is the Miguel Canyon area that I just mentioned, the skarn area, which contains gold and copper mineralization, a little bit of lead and zinc as well. And then farther to the south, the large pink area that you can see is also a geophysical anomaly that shows high readings that we think are related to sulfide mineralization at depth, and that's potentially related to copper mineralization there. But again, never been drill tested. And just up to the top left, so you can see the historic gold mining areas around Pamlico and the new 91 zone that we found. And you can see how the pattern in the geophysics is slightly more subdued because of the oxidation there. But you can see it's also separate but nearby to the other areas of copper mineralization that we found. So we do feel that these are all related, geologically, and we need to get a better understanding of how they're related before we can properly trace them out. But if you see the scale bar in the bottom right, you can see that we're dealing with a district here that is probably 5 to 6 kilometers across in any direction. So it's a very large area, and we're very excited about the potential for additional discoveries here. Turning to Ontario, I mentioned that our projects there are in the Red Lake district, which is a very prolific gold producing district in itself, having produced over 30 million ounces of gold. And these are what we call greenstone belts, owing to the coloration of the rock itself, which is that's kind of a dark green color. But you can see here just on the geology map, somewhat schematic, but the Red Lake Belt itself, where most of that past production has come from, and some very significant exploration success currently, is just to the left. And we're situated in the northern part of what's called the Birch Belt, which is just to the east, and very similar geology, similar rocks, but much less explored because of a lack of access. And one of the things that is changing all of that is the Springpole deposit, which is being advanced by First Mining Gold, and is about 5 million ounces in its own right, and the largest undeveloped or the largest gold deposit in this belt, and one of the largest gold deposits, undeveloped gold deposits in Canada at the moment. So that's opening up the whole northern part of the Birch Belt with roads and access, and it's really allowing folks to focus on this particular area. So we're seeing a lot of exploration activity in the Birch Belt now, and we have just acquired the Argosy Gold Mine that you can see here with the blue star, and that is the most significant past-producing gold mine in the belt, in this Birch Belt, having produced a little over 100,000 ounces at a grade of almost 13 grams, and closed in 1952. And just immediately adjacent to that is our North Birch project. So you can see here, just on a Google Earth projection, the two projects and how close together they are. The Argosy mine just right here on the edge of Summit Lake, and then the North Birch project just to the left of that. The Springpole deposit is just about 10 kilometers to the southeast of Argosy. And at the moment, both North Birch and Argosy are fly-in operations. So you have to go in with a float plane in the summer, land on the lakes, or you can land there with same planes with skis in the winter, or by helicopter. But the road access is improving, and that will just add to the value of these projects going forward. So just a couple of slides on the North Birch project itself. And this project is focused on what we call an iron formation, which, as the name suggests, is very rich in iron. It's highly magnetic, and so it shows up on these regional airborne magnetic surveys that were flown, the large one by the government, and then privately over the property itself. And so what's important to see here is the pattern of how these rocks, which you can see in the pink and orange, are the pattern is folded around and then folded back on itself. And when that happens, the rock tends to break, and those fractures along those breaks are what allows the gold-bearing fluids to get introduced into the area. And the iron formation is a very good host, and so it can tend to host some very significant gold deposits. The largest of these known worldwide is the Homestake Mine in South Dakota, which was over 40 million ounces of gold. It's now closed, but one that is still operating is just to the north of here in Ontario, that's being operated by Newmont Gold Corp. And the Musselwhite mine is more than 8 million ounces, and I actually worked on the feasibility study there back in the mid-90s. So this North Birch project is modeled after those types of deposits, and that's the sort of thing that we're looking for. The principal trend, the main target that we're looking at right now, you can see here in the dashed line, that runs more or less parallel to along the one limb of this folded iron formation. And there is gold in the rocks to the south where the rocks are exposed, and a little bit on the north side as well. But the main target horizon itself is not exposed at surface. It's covered by overburden and streams and lakes and so on. And consequently, it's never been sampled and never been drilled. But we know there's gold in the area. Obviously, as I mentioned, just to the south, the Argosy mine is just a few kilometers away, and again, Springpole just 10 kilometers to the southeast. So it's an exciting target, and we're looking forward to drill that in January. Again, just a map of showing some geophysics of IP that we did here as well, similar to the method we used in Nevada. And you can just see the reddish areas along the same target horizon, which these present really good drill targets for us when we get started. So just moving a couple of kilometers to the east, the Argosy mine, as I mentioned, has produced a little over 100,000 ounces at a grade of 12.7 grams. Closed in 1952, primarily because of the low gold price, because the best grades that they had achieved at the mine were actually on the lowest levels where they were mining at that time. So with a better gold price, they probably would have continued to mine it. But with a gold price of $35 an ounce, it really wasn't economic at that time. So the mine shut down. It's been in disrepair since then. There has been some exploration done in the 70s and 80s, a little bit in 2000 to 2004, but really nothing, well, nothing since 2004 at all. And although these historic photos look interesting and exciting, and I should mention that there currently is no infrastructure. These have all collapsed, and there's no current infrastructure that could be used for a new mine. So the plan is not to try to bring this back into production immediately. It's really to demonstrate the depth potential to expand the mineralization to depth beyond the reaches of the old mine. So just you can see on the geology map here, the veins are up in the northeast corner of the northern block. You can just see the southeast corner of the North Birch property on the edge of the map on the top left, and that just shows you here how close the two properties are to one another. They're only about 500 meters apart. So logistically, it's going to be very easy to operate both projects at the same time. And they only mined 4 veins from this property, even though there are currently 12 known. So that's another area of potential, is to expand on those additional veins and to find more as well. There's great potential for that. And this porphyry that I mentioned here, which is a specific rock type, you can see in the kind of a pinkish orange color. The best mineralization seem to be associated with that at the #1 shaft. And there's some similar rocks to the south that really haven't been explored at all. So we'll be looking at that as well. Just in a little bit more detail, you can see here the #1 shaft and the #2 shaft, and the 4 veins that were mined, #1 and the P vein over here, and #2 and 3 veins on this side. But there are a total of 12 veins known, and we'll be expanding on that and drilling those, as well as extending the drilling to depth, as I said, beyond the existing workings. So we think there is tremendous potential, because the gold mineralization in this part of the world typically goes for more than 1,000 meters at depth. And this has only been mined down to about 270 meters. So I think there's great potential here. So in terms of upcoming catalysts and news flow for the company, we are just, since we just acquired the Argosy mine, we're just completing a 3D model, which we hope to complete this month in December. and then using that to plan the drilling program, which will basically piggyback on the North Birch drilling that will get underway in January. And we'll take about a month or so to do the drilling at North Birch, and then we'll just move the drill over and drill at Argosy in February, March. And while we're all trying to stay warm and in the cold temperatures up of northern Ontario, we will be continuing to work down at Pamlico in Nevada and grooming some of the targets down there for the next drill program there as well, potentially in the second quarter of 2022. So just to close off, just a summary slide of our share structure. As I mentioned, about 155 million shares out, and some warrants and options, and recently trading around the 9-cent level, which gives us a market cap of about $14 million Canadian. It's a very liquid stock. We do trade good volume, around 500,000 shares a day on both the venture exchange in Canada and the OTC in the US. Insiders still own about 5% of the company, institutions about 8%, and we're still closely held with about 25%. And we have analyst coverage through Noble Capital Markets as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you for your attention, and would direct you to our website, www.newrangegold.com, for additional information. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mark Reichman for some Q&A.
Hi, Bob. Thank you very much for the overview.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, quite welcome. It's good to be back.
Some very exciting projects, and all in areas that you know very well. So to begin with, would you elaborate on your personal history with the Argosy Gold Mine and how the acquisition was consummated?
Yeah, sure. Well, it goes right back to the early 2000s, actually, when I was CEO of a junior company called, we changed the name, it ultimately became CanGold. And we worked on Argosy between 2002 and 2004, so I actually supervised the drilling at that time. So I have a lot of familiarity with the project. And but at that time, it was not only a difficult market, and the market wasn't really paying for high-grade, narrow high-grade gold veins, rather. And it was also at that time that I started Great Panther in 2004. And with Great Panther being focused on silver and gold production in Mexico, we ultimately transitioned CanGold to Mexico as well, and in order to leverage off of Great Panther's success. And then over the years, Great Panther became interested in the project that CanGold was working on, and so in 2015, Great Panther acquired CanGold, and in doing that, essentially acquired the Argosy mine itself. But because, as I mentioned, Great Panther was focused on Latin America, the Argosy mine basically became an orphan project. It was a non-core asset for Great Panther, and so more recently, when I approached Great Panther about potentially selling it, it just seemed to be a win-win situation. They were able to take up shares in Newrange and to benefit from the work that we were doing without actually spending any money on it themselves, while they focused on their core activities. So effectively, we bought CanGold because it was the only asset in Canada. And so it was just a share purchase agreement, and so now CanGold is a subsidiary of Newrange, and Great Panther is one of our larger shareholders now.
Well, the acquisition most certainly complements the North Birch project and enables Newrange to build scale within the Red Lake area. How does the acquisition change your near and long-term plans and budget expectations for your Ontario properties?
Well, as you mentioned, Mark, it does complement North Birch very well, because, prior to acquiring Argosy, North Birch, as good a target as I think it is still relatively early stage. That main target horizon, even though it's 8 kilometers long and very prospective, it has never been drilled. So we don't really know what we're going to get when we do drill it. We have to be realistic about that. And so we've essentially gone from just having one early stage project in that region to having a much larger land package, which includes a past producing mine, where we know there's gold there, and it's really a question of expanding on what we know, and then having the two projects so close together. That will also help us, tie together the geology and get a better understanding, of the overall geological setting, which in itself should help improve our chances of success. So it's great that one essentially complements the other.
Now, Bob, you recently added the role of president in addition to being the chief executive officer. With Bob Carrington now serving in an advisory role, how does that change the trajectory or plans for Pamlico, and what might you do differently?
So when Bob stepped away, well, I should say before Bob stepped away, we had already started to expand the scope of the Pamlico project. We expanded the IP earlier this year, the geophysical survey, and got some very interesting results that I showed in the presentation, and so we enlarged the property, more than doubled the size, and then kind of stepped back a little bit, even at that point in terms of the focus and trying to get a better understanding of the district scale geology and larger scale. And that's where we started to sense that there was more to this property, to this area, than just the gold zone that we had been chasing. So, we had already started that transition, if you like. And with Bob stepping away at this time, it doesn't really change too much in terms of that transition. It's still ongoing. We do have a project manager on site who is a geologist, and he has two junior geologists working for him. So they do the majority of the field work anyways. And now that the travel restrictions have been lifted, and I can get down there myself, then it just means that I'll be more directly involved in running the project.
Now, coupled with the recent diamond drilling, the geophysical work, mapping, and sampling, the company appears to be outlining a large-scale polymetallic system. So what is the best way for investors to think about the resource potential at Pamlico?
Well, I think there's two things, Mark. One, of course, is the gold zone at the old Pamlico mines, which we had already been drilling and defining. Although we haven't actually gone to the extent of putting together a resource on it, we are considering doing that. But I mean, the gold that we've delineated there hasn't gone anywhere. We just haven't quantified it yet, and with the recognition that it's probably just part and parcel of a much larger system, that's why we kind of step back to try and get a better understanding, so that we can do a better job of actually targeting our drilling. But in stepping back and looking at the porphyry copper potential, we don't have to go very far to realize that there are other very significant porphyry copper deposits, fairly close by. The Yarrington porphyry copper mine is only 90 kilometers to the northwest on trend. Rio Tinto is drilling another prospect, porphyry copper, just about 30 kilometers to the east of us, and there are certainly lots of other exploration targets in the immediate area as well. So, these can be sizable deposits. Nevada copper is another one that's working nearby. And if we are correct in our assessment that we have that potential at Pamlico, and if we're successful in finding that, then these are essentially company makers. It's something that we're just, I guess, getting a grasp on right now. But we will be testing some of these better targets next year, and looking forward to doing that.
You feel like that your understanding of the geological environment and metal zonation is sufficient to begin developing new targets for drilling at Pamlico?
To some degree, it's evolving. As I say, there was a copper zone that I indicated in the presentation that just from our preliminary sampling is carrying 1.2 up to 5.6% copper, and that's just where it's exposed along 250 meters along surface. But it's parallel to, but only a few hundred meters away from a geophysical anomaly that is about 3 kilometers long, and both of those trend north pretty much right into the old Lepanta mine. And so, that stretch, that trend is quite well mineralized. And as far as we know, that copper zone and that geophysical anomaly haven't been drilled. Those are very specific drill targets that we already have now. And the larger geophysical anomaly to the south is about 3 kilometers across. We are mapping sampling down there. We've been doing some soil sampling as well, and trying to get a better understanding of just what that zone actually means, because you can appreciate with a target that's 3 kilometers across and a drill that has about a 5-inch rod on it. It's quite literally like a needle in a haystack. So, we need to know a little bit more about what's going on there before being able to drill down in that zone. But we're working on that, and we should be ready to go by hopefully about Q2 of next year on that.
Well, to wrap up, could you please just reiterate the near-term milestones or catalysts on the horizon?
Yeah, absolutely. We're just working on some of the logistical plans right now for the winter program that will start in January, weather permitting. And as viewers would have seen from the Google Earth map of Northern Ontario, there are a lot of lakes in that region, and oftentimes the best time of the year to work up there is in the winter when everything's frozen. And so you can land planes on the lakes, you can skidoo around with snow machines, and it's much easier to access. So we'll be dressing warm, but starting in January we'll be drilling at North Birch, and then just move the drill over to Argosy to start drilling a few of those deep holes below the old workings. And certainly looking forward to that because as I mentioned, I drilled some of the last deep holes under there, and we got some very good results, and so just looking at expanding on that. And while we're working up there, the guys will be working down in Nevada and grooming our drill targets down there as well. So it should be an active year coming up. Looking forward to that.
Bob, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us for this C-Suite interview presentation brought to you by Channel Check. Visit our YouTube channel for more interview content, as well as virtual roadshows and conference presentation replays. New content is added regularly, so subscribe below to stay up to date. Visit channelcheck.com or click the link in the description to access equity research, news, and advanced market data on this and the 6,000 other small and microcap companies listed.